to Twin Donuts down the street, though none for us, for whatever that's worth. Mayor Janey, it's good to see you. Is that true, by the way? Did you go and brought us nothing?
I actually have some donuts in the car.
Nice
Happy to
try.
share.
Nice try. A
Happy to
little late.
share.
They
Good
do
to see you.
have,
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
yeah, superior jelly donuts at Twin Donuts, I
Boy,
understand.
are they ever.
But Mayor Janey, you are the mayor, but lots of people don't know your story. So let's start with a little bit of your background, going to being bused to Charlestown, young mom, brief stint at Smith College. Tell us about growing up.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. Grew up here in Boston, raised in the city, mostly in Roxbury and the South End, where my family has very deep roots. I come from a very large family of educators, entrepreneurs, artists, and activists. They instilled in me a desire and love for public service, a deep commitment to give back to my community. I saw activism all around me growing up. My great-grandmother's house in the South End was one street over from where Mel King lives to this day. Got to see him run for mayor, which was so important for our city and for our community. Actually, passed out literature on his campaign for mayor when I was much, much younger. I was bused to Charlestown when I was living in the South End at my great-grandmother's house. That was a very difficult time. My parents didn't agree with sending me there. Prior to that, I had been going to elementary school in Roxbury. So for middle school, during the second phase of busing in Boston, I was assigned to the Edwards Middle School. We often had police escorts for our buses, lots of rocks, bottles, sticks, racial slurs thrown at us as children, which was very painful and hurtful. Inside the school did have friendships with children across the board, from Asian kids, Latino kids, white kids, black kids playing together. Not to say that there weren't sometimes issues, but at 11 years old, you're more concerned about your friendships and who you're going to play with at recess. Did see my grades slip. This was a very difficult time. My parents, however, always fought for me and a better opportunity. And I know, families always want the best for their kids. So by 8th grade, I was in the METCO program and went to Reading Public Schools. I had a daughter before I graduated. She was with me at my high school graduation. And then after school, had to go straight to work to take care of my daughter.
Why did you choose to go back to that school on your first full day in office?
I think it was important to revisit that school and to see firsthand the progress that we have made in our city. I went into one of the classrooms there and saw students who were learning about that painful time in our city's history. They had lots of questions, and to be able to stand before them as someone who lived through that history and is now making history as the first black mayor and the first woman mayor was a powerful moment for the young people in that school, but I think also for our city. And it really demonstrates that we've come a very long way since those dark days. It's not to say that we've solved racism or many of the other ills or challenges facing our city, but we have made tremendous progress, and I'm really proud of the work that we have done and that we need to continue to do to ensure that everyone in Boston feels welcome and included, not just in their neighborhoods, but in processes and in decision-making in our city.
What'd that feel like walking through the doors for you?
It was, whenever you visit a school, it's a different experience when you're an adult. School seems so big.
But it's not just a school.
It is that school that I went to. And I remember when we were leaving the school and seeing a mural on the wall that talked about taking a negative and turning it into a positive. And that is exactly what I wanted to do. And that was on the wall. And they say that is the Edwards way.
We're talking to Mayor Kim Janey. If you want to speak to her, you should give her a buzz at 877-301-8970. You can tweet her at BOS Public Radio. Mayor, we talk a lot about another issue of equity on the show, which is vaccine equity, or vaccine inequity, I guess is a better way to put it for the most part. The good news is vaccine hesitancy is receding somewhat amongst people of color, low-income people, both here and around the country. But you launched a couple of days ago this program, Hope, to build confidence in the vaccine. And I have to say, from what I've read, it looks really well crafted. It looks terrific and obviously meets a need. However, it is virtually impossible to get an appointment in this state. And excuse me, even though the system is better, even more difficult for people of fewer means and communities of color, that sort of thing. What is the city doing other than trying to build confidence to ensure that people actually get a shot in their arm?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are inequities in terms of, deep disparities that we're seeing in terms of who is being impacted by COVID-19, who is dying from COVID-19. We know that the Black community, the Latinx community have been hard hit. We are seeing increases in cases among younger populations in different neighborhoods throughout our city. For example, in South Boston, we are seeing a lot of activity happening there among younger Bostonians. The good news in any of that is that our hospitalization rate is not increasing because these are younger residents that can bounce back. In terms of what the city is doing, I'm really proud that we launched a $1.5 million vaccine equity grant to help close those gaps in terms of who is getting access to the vaccine, to ensure more people of color and those in harder hit communities are able to get vaccinated. And so this grant program seeks to partner with community organizations that have trusted relationships with folks in the community. And one thing that it is important to point out in terms of the hesitancy that people have, there are not higher rates of hesitancy among Black folks. It is pretty equal across the board, according to reports that have been coming out. And so there are a lot of people who have questions, and it is important that we get the information out so that people can make informed choices about choosing to get the vaccine. And so we want to encourage it through the Hope campaign. We want to make sure that we are lifting up opportunities. I have been visiting and volunteering at a number of mobile vaccination clinics that have had a lot of success in terms of meeting people where they are. So our EMS team and our BHA team have been on the front lines, making sure that residents can get vaccinated right in their homes.
We're talking to Mayor Kim Janey. Our phone number, if you want to talk to her, is 877-301-8970.
And you can also email at bpr@wgbh.org and tweet us at Boss Public Radio. Mayor Janey is going to be with us to the top of the hour. Mayor Janey, schools, huge issue when everybody's going to be back to school in Boston, what it's going to be mean to be back to school in Boston. Where are you in the school reopening?
Well, it is so important to get our students back in their classrooms, with their teachers, with their friends. As I said earlier, I come from a family of educators. The importance of education was instilled in me since I was a very, very little girl, and I spent the vast majority of my career in the nonprofit world advocating for equity and excellence in our schools and working with parents, working with students, working with teachers and school leaders and administrators centrally to ensure that decision-making is shared and that we are dealing with persistent challenges in our schools that predate COVID-19. And so we know there is a lot of work to be done, and I know that our superintendent is working hard with her team to ensure that we can give the kids the best opportunity to be successful. That being said, we know that remote learning has been a challenge, not just for our staff and teachers, for families at home who are also working from home, who may have connectivity issues in terms of Wi-Fi problems. And so we really do need to make sure that we are getting our students back in the classroom where they have the best opportunity to learn with their peers and with their teachers.
Our numbers, if I may, 877-301-8970. I'm sorry, Margery.
Boston got a waiver to get things organized. They got transportation issues, et cetera. They've got issues with COVID in the community and stuff. When do you think is reasonable to get, we're talking about the elementary kids coming in first, I believe, at the end of the month. But when do you think it's reasonable to get the middle school kids and the high school kids back?
Well, at the end of the month, it will include up to grade 8, and we are working hard to get get our high school students back in the classroom as well. Part of the strategy is making sure that we get more teachers vaccinated. They have been advocating strongly to get vaccinated, and now that is open to them. We've lifted up a priority clinic to ensure that they can get their vaccines, and they are getting them, which is great. We also are working hard to make sure that our school buildings are being cleaned properly, that the air circulation is taking place the way it needs to in terms of the public health guidelines. So we are working hard to make sure that the school buildings are safe. Part of that is also testing at our schools. And we do need more of our children to get tested in schools and take advantage of that opportunity. And so we hope that if there are any parents listening, that they will certainly give consent and encourage, testing at the school level.
That's the voice of Kim Janey, Mayor of Boston. She's going to get to your calls in a second at 877-301-8097. In fact, why don't we take one since this is an inaugural tour here. Rick in Dorchester, you're on with Mayor Kim Janey. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
Inspector, Mayor Jim and Margery. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I just wanted to, I'm very glad that the mayor's there, by the way. I think this is wonderful news for all of us. Second, I just wanted to know if there are any plans to do something about our real estate taxes in the city. They're out of control. I've been a long time small property owner in the city, and my taxes have gotten to the place where I'm having to start to sell all my houses because I can't afford to keep them. And with the housing crisis, most of my apartments, I'll tell you, I rent very large 2-bedroom homes, apartments for well under $1,500 a month, but I've had to sell them because, one, I don't want to have to raise the rents on these people, and the people who bought them have turned them into condos. So if somebody doesn't do something soon about this, the city's going to lose astronomical amount of apartments that are out there for these low-income people. So I'm just trying to figure out what somebody's going to do to reduce our tax burden.
Let's ask somebody right here who happens to be the mayor. Kim Janey?
Thank you, Rick. Thank you so much for your call. And you're absolutely right. The housing crisis is one of the many challenges that are facing our city, and this predates COVID-19. We know that COVID has only made it worse. And so we are looking at all kinds of ways to support renters as well as small landlords who are having a difficult time. Part of the work has been to look at our tax for seniors. I'm not sure how old you are, but certainly want to make sure that small landlords have the opportunity to hold on to their property, particularly when they're doing the right thing and ensuring that rents are remaining reasonable. And for folks who have been having difficulty, was very proud to launch $50 million in new money for rental relief to help residents stay in their homes and help ease the burden here for folks. And so there is a lot more that we need to do in terms of development without displacement. Certainly looking at taxes, and happy to hear more from you and making sure that folks here on my team can capture your information so that we can follow up with you directly to get more specificity.
So, Rick, why don't you stay on the line and give your contact information to one of our producers, and we'll share it with the mayor's office. Before we leave that topic,
that would be great. Thank you, Rick.
Before we leave that topic, I'm really glad you mentioned this rental relief, because for those who are confused, when they hear about these moratoriums, like from Washington or the state, they don't mean you don't owe your rent, or they mean you get a break for a period of time, after which you may get a huge bill. How do people apply for this, their piece of this $50 million?
So they can go to the city's website, boston.gov/rental relief, to get more information there. Really important that we help folks stay in their homes. And it's not even just the temporary relief. The eviction moratorium will prevent the evictions from coming. It doesn't mean that landlords still may be taking action and just waiting for that deadline to pass. So it is important that we also find ways to help people get back to work. That is very important. If we're going to have a recovery, reopening, and renewal that is equitable, we have to center workers in that. And so making sure, last week announced some help for our Main Street districts and getting workers prepaid Charlie cards and passes for blue bikes to help them get back to work and ease some of the financial burden that they would otherwise have.
I have a question about that Charlie card thing, but before we do, why don't we take a call, Margery?
Yeah, Becca on the road. Thank you for calling. You're on with Mayor Kim Janey.
Hi, Becca.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Thank you.
Good. So, Madam Mayor, really happy to talk to you. I currently work around the Boston area, working in the sewers and whatnot, kind of a special job. But just as a woman who's 26 years old, I just wanted to hear, what empowered you to get into a position of, higher power almost, and what people like me who are really young and fresh into our careers can do to possibly take the path of as a political leader.
Great question, Becca. Thank you so much for your interest and your question. For me, as a little girl growing up, I never aspired to seek out elected office. I never thought that I would be the mayor of our wonderful city. When I was little, I wanted to be a nurse because I saw Julia on television, a young single mom. She was a nurse. She had her son, Corey. And so I wanted to be a nurse and I wanted to help people. I think it is really important that we are seeing so many women run for office all across our country and that they are winning their elections. For too long, we have not had that kind of representation, but it's important that we see the representation because it is often said, if you see it, you can be it. And if you don't, then folks may not aspire to that. And I think as a woman, as the first woman to serve as mayor of this city after 199 years, what I bring is my lived experience as a young single mom myself who has gone through and experienced many of the challenges that so many of our residents have faced. And I bring that lens that makes me want to lead with a lens of equity, justice, and love. I encourage anyone who is thinking about it to take the leap. I know from research it takes women longer to decide to get into office, and told that it takes 7 times of being asked to do it before they actually do it. For me, it was probably more like 20 or 30 or 47 times. But I did finally run for office because, I just saw the challenges that my community was facing. I had already been active, starting a neighborhood association, going to different community meetings and civic groups. In my career, I was already an advocate and a community organizer, and was trying to make a difference outside of public office, and determined that I could have a greater impact inside public office. And so if this is something you're thinking about, I certainly encourage you to pursue that. There are lots of opportunities in terms of training and support if you're interested. And young people have always been at the forefront of change, so I certainly encourage you to pursue your dreams.
Becca, we're glad you called. Call us again. 877-301-8970 to talk to Mayor Janey.
I'm particularly glad she called Mayor Janey, because you mentioned being a young single mom, and I think a lot of people, young single moms, it's really difficult because you're single, because you're young, because childcare is expensive. How did you do it? And I know you went to college, then you went to Smith College for a while.
Which Margery also went to, we should say.
And
my
your
daughter
daughter,
went
yeah, that's
to.
right.
Yes,
Very loyal Smith alums here. Did family step in? Was it take a village? Did you manage to get childcare? What'd you do?
Definitely takes a village. I was 16 years old when I had my daughter. Had support of family, just getting through high school. That was the first hurdle, making sure that I was able to complete my studies and graduate with my peers on time was so important. A lot of folks will write you off and say that, that you won't amount to anything, that you've ruined your entire life. And so for me, I just wanted to focus on giving my daughter the best life that I could. And that really led to me seeking opportunities to advocate on behalf of all children, because I understood that her success was interconnected and tied to the success of other kids. So I got involved with the Children's Defense Fund, started organizing freedom schools on behalf of children. Child care was very, very expensive, and my daughter did do family daycare at one point, but also had family members who would care for her. You know, I had WIC. That was the only way to make it work in terms of getting, formula and
Women,
cereal.
infants, and children.
Yes.
Is that what
Yeah.
it's called? Yeah.
You know, my very first apartment, I had Section 8, which was very helpful in terms of the housing costs because things are very, very difficult. You know, didn't have a car. I'm struggling on the bus with the baby stroller, which isn't easy to do, trying to ensure that she had access to good schools, which isn't always easy, particularly for a young parent who may not. You know, my experience had been in some ways a negative experience, and so how to navigate that system was very difficult, but really grateful for the support of family and the broader community that was my village that helped me get through. And it's that kind of spirit that I think is here in Boston that we need to tap into to get through the challenges that face us today.
You know, I realized I have been very remiss. Can you be very remiss or extra
You can be
remiss?
very remiss.
Whatever I am. I failed to tell you, we're streaming this live.
Oh, yeah, we are.
If you actually want to watch Mayor Kim Janey, in addition to listening to her, you can do that at WGBH.org. You know, you just mentioned taking a bus, and you also mentioned a minute ago, Mayor, we'll get back to your calls in a second, everybody, these free Charlie cards and the blue bike thing for 1,000 people. I think I've read that you're in favor of free transportation on certain bus routes.
Absolutely.
There's a move, as you know, there are a lot of reformers in the transit world that think, particularly with ridership going down to virtually
Excuse me.
nothing,
God bless
if
you.
there was ever a time to talk seriously about free transportation, public transportation, now is it.
Amen.
Where are you in favor of
I am.
all across the board?
Well, I have advocated, I mean, that would be great. I have advocated for certain bus routes, particularly those in communities that have been left out of rapid transit. So, you know, I remember growing up in Roxbury and having the elevated train.
Yeah.
I still feel some kind of way about that train being gone, but I'm going to leave that for another conversation. But it is so important in terms of connecting it to jobs and opportunities for folks. And so when we lost that, that was a big hit. And we know that here that black individuals spend 64 more hours in transit, and that is often because not living next to a train. So now I have to take the bus, either the 14, the 19 to 23, or the 28 go by my house. I've been a strong advocate of the 28 being free because it connects. It's an economic corridor of Blue Hill Avenue connecting Mattapan Square to Grove Hall to Nubian Square and all the way to Ruggles, where you can get the train and go on to wherever you're going, whether it's downtown Boston or somewhere else to work. And so I think it is important that we at least pilot that, and I am looking at ways of doing just that so that we can, one, it will hopefully increase ridership. We can also, it will help with the on-time boarding because it'll be, no need to kind of, go through your bag and look for change or where's your Charlie card and tapping it. So it will also increase the speed in which our buses flow through our city. And I think that is very important. And so as we do this pilot, it's important that we measure those things so we can see success and hopefully build from there.
Before we take a quick break, I just want to follow up on that. To be clear, it sounds like you're open to free rides in the whole system. If that is correct, and please tell me if I'm wrong, what gets you there? What's the step from this to that?
It's obviously going to cost money. We know that the transportation system here is operated by the state, and there are some challenges around funding there.
A lot of federal money.
But exactly, and this is why we need to look at piloting and see how we can use some of that federal money to get free buses, and that is exactly what I am working on in the city of Boston.
But you're open to the bigger thing. That's my question.
I am as well, and I would say that we cannot continue to put the burden on our riders, particularly those who rely on bus transportation. Boston is the economic engine, not just for the Commonwealth, but for New England. And it's important that we not put all of that burden on bus riders, particularly when we know that they're more likely to be poor, more likely to be elderly, more likely to be people of color. So it is important that we think about ways that we can make this more equitable. And I understand that there are challenges, which is why I hope at the state level as well as the city level, I am looking at that federal money, and I hope our state partners are as well.
We're listening to the voice of Mayor Kim Janey. She's with us to the top of the hour. If you want to call and ask her a question, the number is 877-301-8970. You can email us at bpr@wgbh.org or tweet us at Boss Public Radio. You're listening to 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio. Quick break, right back.
Support for GBH comes from you and LabShares Newton. With strict safety measures in place, LabShares offers monthly rentals that include access to a BL2 lab and equipment, private and shared offices, and parking. More at labshares.com. And Comcast Business. Whether customers want more or the office is closed, Comcast is on a mission to help businesses not just bounce back, but bounce forward. With internet speeds of up to a gig, plus a network with added protection. ComcastBusiness.com. And South County, Rhode Island, a New England escape featuring 20 public beaches. This summer, you can find your way back to Rhode Island's southern coast. Learn how at southcountyri.com. And Chase Building Supply, offering brands like Marvin, TimberTech, Therma-Tru, and Schrock for your home renovation and building needs. You can learn more at Chase Building Supply on Route 1 in Foxborough or at chasebuilding.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm Jim Browdy. She's Margery. If you're just tuning in, Mayor Kim Janey is here taking our questions and yours till the top of the hour. You can tweet her at BOS Public Radio, send her an email to bpr@wgbh.org. Margery checks that, or call her at 877-301-8970. If you want to see her as well, we're streaming this live. You can watch Mayor Janey take our questions and yours at wgbh.org, Margery.
Tom in South Boston, thank you for calling.
Hey, Tom.
You're on with the mayor.
Thank you. Hey, Madam Mayor. Congratulations. A quick question. So we've got a fairly long list of candidates for a number of races, obviously, in the city for this coming September and then follow-on November elections. Does the City Board of Elections plan the same robust approach it took to ensure early voting options are available to maximize voter turnout?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your question. And, you know, I'm a deep believer, big believer that we need to make voting more accessible to folks. This is why it's so disappointing to see what is playing out in Georgia. I am a founding board member of Mass Vote, so anything that we can do to make early voting happen in municipal elections, I am all for it. I know on the council, in my first term, backed a proposal there. Certainly would love to see that opportunity happen here and would support that.
Tom, thank you very much for the call. 877-301-8970. Mayor Janey, we had a police commissioner for about a day here, or maybe 2 days before he was put on leave because of some domestic abuse allegations from way back. It's been, I think, 2 months. I've read you say something like we're waiting for this to conclude. What is going on, and when will there be a determination as to whether Dennis White is the commissioner, he's dumped? What's going on?
Well, we do expect that investigation will conclude in the coming weeks, this month. That is what we do expect, and I will be reviewing that report to see what it says. You're right, these allegations are from way back. They are very serious allegations. I do believe people should have the opportunity to move on from things when they happen like this. When you take responsibility, you can move on. I don't know what this report will show, so it's important that we do see what the report shows so that I can make an informed decision about the future.
You know, one last thing about this, if I may, Mayor Janey, is the Globe has made a request for the internal affairs documents. The state, I don't know what the name of the office is, Public Records Office or whatever, said the city's denial has not met the threshold that it needs to meet to deny the records. Are you ready to release these records
So
that the Globe
I will-
apparently has a right to get?
Yeah, I will be looking into that. I know that this has been an issue that has come up repeatedly. When it comes to this particular case, I think we've got to let that investigation play out. But, my understanding is that there may be some, requests from cases pending years and years and years ago.
But if
So-
the state office says you have to release them, why would you not comply with the
Well, I
state
will
office?
certainly be looking at that to see what the requests are. And I do believe in the importance of transparency. And this is why our new Office of Police Accountability and Transparency is so important. And we do want to make sure that we are being transparent about cases.
Mayor Janey, you mentioned the police officer accountability and transparency. There's been a lot of proposed police reforms in Boston and across the state, but not that many people seem to be at their commissions yet or working yet. I know you led the fight back when you were in the city council to have some of the city police budget reduced and used for other social programs and stuff, but it seems like there's been more talk than action. Is there anything you can do about that?
Yeah, I think we need to look at reforms overall. Some come in our budget, some come in policy, some come in the actual police contracts. There is a desire, I think, from the police as well as my administration to reimagine how we respond to crisis and make sure that we are investing in different agencies within our city or in partners who can do some of this work. I do believe that we ask police to take on too much, just like we ask teachers to be all things to kids, social workers, nurses, teachers, everything. We ask the same as police, and we have to ask ourselves, is that appropriate? What we have to ensure is that every single neighborhood has safety, healing, and justice, and right now, that is not what is felt in some of our neighborhoods. And so the police accountability piece issue, very important. How we reimagine and allocate resources to other city agencies, very important. How we bring overtime spending and the drivers that bring that up. It's important that we look at that. We know that there are a lot of officers who are on sick leave, and so we have to examine that. Again, this is budget, policy, and contract, so it is a three-pronged approach that we have to take, and working with the police department as well as our external partners on how we move forward.
We're talking to the mayor of the city of Boston. That would be Kim Janey. She's here to take your calls till the top of the hour. And Bruce from Mission Hill, one of my favorite topics, is on his mind. He's next with Mayor Janey. Hey there, Bruce.
Good morning,
Hi.
Jim and Margery, and
Hi.
Mayor Janey. Mayor, would you consider or entertain a look at an elected school committee or a hybrid thereof? And I have a suggestion as well, that you consider Nubian Square, Dudley Square, as the nexus of public education for the city of Boston. Reason being that we need to generate interest from private sector and the educational sector to engage them to recognize the importance and the impact. And we do have the infrastructure with John D. O'Brien, the Madison Park, and as well, not public school, but Roxbury Community College, to train our children to the next generation jobs and this kind of thing. And I thank you for your comment. And just one other point. I've ridden with the mayor on the 28th and on occasion. Thank you.
On the 28 bus?
What?
She's
on
ridden
the
on the bus
28
with her. That's
Right.
great.
Oh, he's been
I love
ridden
that,
with you on the
Bruce.
bus.
So, Mayor, what do you think?
Thank you for your question, Bruce. And I would point out that Nubian Square is the nexus of public education. Some folks have already deemed it the education district. In addition to the schools that you've mentioned, there's Boston Day and Evening Academy. There's the Dearborn STEM Academy, very close. to the area, trying to get and support Ben Franklin Institute and moving into the square, which I think would be just a perfect fit with the proximity to Madison and Dearborn. And also important to point out that our school department, the Bruce Bowling Building, is right there in the heart of Nubian Square. In terms of school governance, elected hybrid model, certainly important as someone who has gone to countless, I probably hundreds of school committee meetings, if not thousands, in my career in life. I have seen firsthand how that body works and some of the challenges there, and that parents often feel like, wonder if their voices are being heard. And so I think looking at the school committee is something that we can look at in the future. I think whatever we do, it's important to always have a process where folks can weigh in. So I don't think that this is something that you just deem from on high, but that you have a process where stakeholders can weigh in and determine what they want to see in that process.
Bruce, thanks for the call. I should have asked you one other question, and I should know the answer to this, Mayor, about this vaccine thing. One of the things I thought Mayor Walsh did on the way out the door that was terrific is when we saw the site in Roxbury open, the Reggie Lewis Center, and the Globe is reporting in the first few days it's mostly middle and upper class whites from Boston or the suburbs or that sort of thing. Before Mayor Walsh left, I believe what he did is mandate that 50% of the shots had to go to people in surrounding communities. We thought there might be a legal problem. Apparently there is not. Is that something you've either done or contemplated, to reserve shots for people in the communities from where the center, where the place that it's being administered is situated?
Yeah, it's very important. And right now at Reggie Lewis, it's 40%.
40,
that
okay.
is being reserved. And what's also important to point out there is the partnership. So it is operated by the state, and CIC Health is there, and they are working with the Boston Black COVID Coalition as a partner, and they've set up a hotline and outreach to ensure that folks who are vulnerable, whether it is our elderly population or folks who may be living in senior housing, or people who live in communities of color and zip codes that haven't been well represented in getting vaccinated, or that are just hardest hit. And so it is important that we lift up those partnerships, and that is why I invested $1.5 million in the Vaccine Equity Grant, so that we can see more of those partnerships, meeting people where they are. And it's also important that we do more of the mobile vaccination clinics. Those sites have been very successful in helping us get more people who are vulnerable and disproportionately impacted vaccinated.
How about that quota thing, though? I mean, I spoke to, it's not just at Reggie Lewis originally. Reverend Borders from Morningstar was on TV with me a couple of weeks ago.
I support
admittedly
it.
2 weeks ago. You do support it.
I do support it. I mean, our guidelines come from the state, and so with what we have to work with what the state guidelines are, but within that, once we have populations that are eligible, and that 40%, originally started lower, and so it has been growing.
We're triggered. Children were frightened, not to mention all the dogs that were like basket cases over the fireworks. She wants to know, Mayor Janey, what you're going to do about the fireworks in Boston.
Very good question, Pam, and you are not alone in your frustration. That was and it started very early and went a long time. And so for all the reasons that you stated, this is a serious concern, and we are looking at that already and trying to be proactive around that. I've raised this already with my team. I raised this last month in March, that we need to get ready for summer. On top of all of that, it wasn't just the fireworks. We had COVID. We were still in the throes of COVID. And also demands for justice around the killing of unarmed Black people, and so a lot of hurt and open up wounds there. So it was just serving to re-traumatize people over and over again. So it's a huge issue. We certainly need, fireworks are not legal in Massachusetts, so we definitely need to stop people from bringing them over the border from other states into Massachusetts and certainly into our city. And we'll be looking to crack down on that by being proactive and trying to get ahead of it before summer even gets here.
Speaking of police killings, what's your reaction been in the first week and a half of the Chauvin murder trial?
It is difficult to watch. It is difficult to see folks defend someone saying that they can't breathe, and that is just a way of them trying to get out of, that's their way of resisting arrest. I don't even understand how you could defend the indefensible. It is very difficult to watch, and my hope is that justice will be served.
Kara in Boston, you're on with Mayor Kim Janey. Welcome to the show. Hi. And by the way, if you want to
Hi,
watch
great.
Mayor Janey, before you go ahead, I'm sorry, not much time left. You can go to WGBH.org. My apologies, Kara. Take it away.
No problem. Thanks, and congratulations, Mayor Janey. My question has to do with whether or not you feel that the Boston Department of Planning and Development could use some reform, and what those reforms might look like.
So I think, generally speaking, we need to look at development in Boston and ensure that the development is working for the residents here. We have to ensure that there is more mixed income housing, particularly for working families who continue to be displaced. We have to do development without displacement and be more creative on that front. We have to open up more opportunities for people who have been left out of these opportunities to develop and build wealth that way. So looking at the Massport model and ensuring that we have an RFP process that is driving development and that looks at building green. So I think there's opportunity to do much more for our climate in development, much more around affordable housing and mixed income housing, more opportunities for developers of color and women who may have been left out of some of this prosperity. So we will be looking at development overall, not just with the BPDA. We're looking at that through the Department of Neighborhood Development as well.
Thanks for your call, Kara. We really appreciate it. 877-301-8970.
Mayor Janey, we it seems like turn on Saturday Night Live, you hear another crack about Boston being the most racist city in America. We heard one last week. What's the guy, Fred Hampton? He played Fred Hampton. Daniel.
Head of the Black Panthers in Chicago. Oh, Daniel Kaluuya.
Kaluuya, thank you very much. Talked about us. We had this before with Michael Che, and when we talk about this, lots of people call up and agree with their assessment. Now we got this all-inclusive tourism campaign. Colette Phillips got the grant from the city, longtime activist and event person in the city, to talk about Boston in a different way. What do you make of this campaign?
I think it is incredible. And so kudos to Colette, kudos to Proverb for just this masterpiece. The first time I saw the video, it literally brought tears to my eyes because it was the first time that I saw my city being promoted in a way where I felt seen, and to lift up not just the rich diversity of our city, but the neighborhoods in our city. And that is truly what makes Boston so special. So me being able to go to Twin Donuts this morning was great because there's so much happening in our neighborhoods, and that we need to really highlight that. I remember being a little girl and how big and prominent the Citgo sign is over Fenway Park, and it used to light up, and I was just fascinated with that. And I know we showcase that in a lot of Boston when we talk about Boston. But as a little girl, the Simcoe sign in Mattapan was just as important to me. When my father would take me there and I would see that dog in the hot dog bun with its tail wagging up and down was just important. So highlighting our neighborhoods, I think, is just incredibly important, particularly as we're talking about recovery, reopening, and renewing our city. We have to lift up our neighborhoods. We have to celebrate the rich diversity, and we have to help our businesses that have been hard hit by this pandemic. Now, we understand we are still in COVID, and so this is a more regional approach than a national campaign at this stage, but we open our arms. Boston is much more than a Saturday Night Live clip on television. Boston is reflected in that all-inclusive campaign. And so I encourage people to watch it if you haven't seen it,
Great.
And to share it out.
But
The
have you
website,
thought-
by the way, is a website. It's I
It
know you
is.
know, but listeners may not. It's fabulous too. Check
Have
it
you
out.
thought about, though, as I said before, when we do talk about how racist is Boston, a lot of people call up and say it's pretty racist, and they talk about the fact that you don't see many black people downtown. You go to another city, whether it's New York City, whether it's Philadelphia, Washington, you see this huge black middle class. Have you thought about, as a black woman who grew up here, we do seem to be behind in Boston. You know, you were the first woman of color to be the mayor, first woman to be the mayor. Other cities are way ahead of us in terms of not so much women being mayor, but certainly black men being mayor. What's wrong with us?
Well, I am looking toward the future. I think we are at an important moment in our city's history here. With the first black mayor sitting right here in your studio and the first woman mayor. And I think we need to continue to embrace this moment, meet this moment. I think Boston is ready for a city that is much more equitable, that is stronger because of that racial equity and being inclusive. I think it is what Boston wants. It is what Boston needs to move forward. And it's I want to continue to lead our city through that racial equity lens that brings more people to the table to solve some of these challenges that are before us. We can't be reduced to just a skit on Saturday Night Live or someone's, be the butt of someone's joke. We certainly have challenges, obviously, but so do every other city in our country. As a nation, we have to continue to work to overcome these challenges. And here in Boston, I'm doing just that.
Let's go to John and JP at Jamaica Plain. You're on with the mayor, Kim Janey. Hi there, John.
Thanks. Mayor Janey, congratulations, first of all. Boston has had a reputation of being a racist city for a long time, and things may have changed, but is it just because the city is more gentrified? And more specifically, I'm curious, because you were a student who was bused. Have you ever run across some of those students or those other people in the community who were unfriendly to you, who were racist, who taunted you, who made life difficult? And what do you say to them? How do you get them to change their minds? Or is that just a lost cause?
That is a great question. I have not run into anyone from my childhood who has treated me badly, but I don't need to go that far back. I think, issues in our city around racism or anywhere in our country kind of follow you throughout. It's maybe the job that you didn't get hired for. Maybe it's the apartment that you didn't get shown. Maybe you were only shown certain apartments in certain neighborhoods. So racism plays out in a lot of different ways in our city. And when it comes to reputation or perception, what is important is the reality. And so the work that we do on the ground every day to change the reality, of Boston, I think that is what is truly important moving forward.
Thank you for your call, John. Following up on what John said and Marjorie's question, when I look at those numbers, and I'm sure you feel the same way from that report that came out recently, what is it, 0.4% of city contracts to black-owned businesses, 0.8, I think, to Latinx-owned, 1.1 to Asian American. I know Marty Walsh, before he left, set new thresholds, but, it's like Groundhog Day in so many ways in the city. I can see the press conference in 2 years where the numbers inch up a little bit, and whoever the mayor is says, well, we made some progress, but we got to work harder. How do you ensure the people of this city that these new standards, thresholds, are not just rhetoric, essentially, and we'll just do the same damn thing we have done, which is give to the old boys network and ignore what Boston has become?
Thank you for that. I have long advocated for more equity and inclusion in these numbers. This is the taxpayers' dollars, and so we have a responsibility to spend them wisely. And less than 1% of $2.1 billion going to Black or Latinx companies is not anything that we should be proud of. There is a 25% goal now, which is much greater than that, less than 1%, and it is also a larger goal than the 17% that the disparities study outlined in terms of the available businesses
Capacity,
who are
right? Yeah,
ready
yeah,
to do this
yeah.
work. So we, one, have
Yeah.
to build that capacity. We have to build the capacity of our businesses to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. We have to build our own capacity, and that is what I'm doing right now as mayor. Just in the first 2 weeks of being mayor, have built a team. So we're adding 5 new positions to build the capacity to look at this, to support businesses, to monitor the numbers, to provide technical assistance. I am hiring a director of strategic procurement in addition to those 5 positions. We are setting benchmarks for ourselves to make sure that we are hitting our goals. We also have to build capacity externally, not just with the small businesses or the businesses who want to do business in our city, but we need the business community and the leaders out there to set an example as well and make sure that they're doing better on these numbers so that we don't come back in a couple of years and repeat this.
We only have a
Mayor
minute
Janey,
left.
we only have a minute left. I want to really ask you. I mentioned when you came in that there's some great perks to the office, like that nice office looks over Faneuil Hall.
This
And
is
also,
so Margery.
you can drive around the city, go to all these places like downtown, and don't have to worry about a place to park. You know, I mean, are there any other perks you'd like to that you've really enjoyed?
You know, I'm not about the
question.
perks. I'm about the work, and
Okay.
I do
Nice try,
have a driver who drives me around. But
Oh, my
my
God.
team already knows that I still take the T, and we venture
you?
out. Oh yes, and so we've
Wow.
already ventured out. We've been on the T before. It's a bit of a production, but it is important. It's a way that I connect and stay grounded and see firsthand the challenges with our public transit, and also interact with residents in our city to see how things
Yeah.
are going. So
Bruce is waiting for you on the bus, Mayor.
on the
so
28
check
bus.
him out. He sounds like quite
She's
a
a
guy.
better woman than I am. If I had a driver in a car, I would not be on the T. So good
Mayor
for
Janey,
you, Mayor Janey.
we
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you
so
so
Thank
much.
you.
for doing
Thank
that.
you
We
for
really
having
appreciate
me.
it.
Very
I
Thanks so
much.
appreciate it.
That
Thank
was
you.
Mayor Kim Janey. We very much appreciate her time. If you want to watch Mayor Kim Janey, she's still on. Can we
No,
still do
she's
the
not.
streaming thing? I guess
Next
that's
month
done.
you can watch her,
Okay,
though.
you missed her. Next time, coming up,
Oh, my God.
we're going to be joined by Andrew Cabral for Sheriff of Suffolk County. We're going to talk about the Chauvin Trial, NRA's Wayne LaPierre, and a bunch of other stuff. You're listening to 89.7 GBH Boston Public Radio.